Hello everyone, Jimmy is with you as always today. We have another day of wonderful stories. I hope you did not forget to like and subscribe. I really appreciate it, and we are starting. First story today, from user not moving in. Let's listen him. My boyfriend and I were supposed to move in together. 2 weeks ago, he bought a 87K truck without telling me. I refused to move in with him. I'm very annoyed. He didn't even speak to me about it. We had so many discussions about moving in together, getting married, and then he goes and purchases a truck 2K, more than his yearly salary. If you're asking, how can a truck be 87K? That's the price you get when you put every addition you want on it. He showed me the truck expecting me to be excited, and I was livid. When he bought this truck, we were only a month from moving in together. We got into a bad argument where he told me it was his money and he could do whatever he wanted with it. So I said fine, and I told him I'm not comfortable moving in with him anymore. I asked my landlord if my apartment was still available and if I could renew my lease, and they said yes. Now my boyfriend is saying he can afford his place and his truck. I don't feel bad. You should have thought of that before buying something so expensive without talking to your girlfriend of 2 years. I have had some of his friends' girlfriend reach out to me and say I should support him, and one even say that I'm not loyal and this shows I wouldn't support him if we were married since I run away when finances get bad. He didn't lose his job or get hurt. He bought an expensive item without discussing it. I have been trying to get him to return the truck because it's already affecting his finances badly. He has only had this truck for 2 weeks, and he is worried that in the next month or two, he won't be able to cover all the expenses he usually has. This past weekend, we had another argument and I think our relationship is going to end. I'm not helping him pay for this truck and am not moving in with him. I have asked for a break and will be thinking about what to do. Author edited the story. I appreciate the different opinions everyone has given me. I have a lot to think about. To answer 2 questions, no, he doesn't need the truck. He works from home, and if he has to check in at work, he has an office. Also, his friends and their girlfriends know about this issue because he asked for their views when we went to a get-together last week. Only 2 girlfriends reached out to me to tell me I wasn't being supportive. The others have minded their business. Author update this story. Yay. So I broke up with him, mainly because I realized we aren't financially compatible. Before I go into what happened, I do want to say something. I understand we weren't married, but we were both moving together into a new place and had several discussions about this move and our plans for the future, including marriage. For the people private messaging me saying, it's his money and he can do whatever he wants, or you're only 2 years into a relationship, you're not a wife. I know that, and I have never asked what is in his bank account or told him what to do financially. I'm aware it is his money, but I also know his financial situation, and he was making decisions without my input that, if we were to stay together, would not only affect him but also our relationship and our financial situation for years to come. I will die on this hill. This is not okay, and if it's okay for you, that's fine, but for me, if we make a financial plan and you make a huge decision, without me, I won't be okay with it. And that's a big reason why I backed out of moving into a new apartment with him. I would have never made a decision like this without his input at all. The main reason why we decided to move in together was to take the next step in our relationship, but also to pay down our debts. I now have 22K debt from student loans and a car. When I met him though, it was around 60K, and I was bashfully living on credit cards. Within the first couple of months of US dating, I saw how hard he worked, and with a salary at 85K, he was making huge progress in paying off his loans and credit cards. On my end, at the time, I was only making 50K. I honestly saw his work ethic and was like, wow, and got serious about my debt. I got a second part-time job where I was making 32K a year, bringing my salary to 82K. I did that so that I could pay off my debts faster, but also so that we could be on equal footing when we moved in together. And he didn't have to pay significantly more in living expenses than me when he had more debt. We did a complete budget months before we moved in together, and realized that we would each have $700 extra a month to put towards our own individual budgets. This is why the purchase of this truck was so surprising to me. We had planned this move for months. We had a budget, and he destroyed that plan with the truck. If he wanted a new car, there are plenty of cars he could have gotten that would have fit into the $700 monthly surplus he had. Anyway, for the past few days before we broke up, he tried to show me that this truck was a good financial purchase, and we could still move in together. He told me that he had actually budgeted for this and could show me how he could afford this. I wanted to hear him out, so I went to his place, and he had 2 budgets. He said he had been thinking of getting this truck for some time, and he had worked out a budget beforehand. He showed me the first budget, and after his truck, insurance, expenses, and his debts, he was left with $115 for the month. I noticed with the first budget, he didn't include groceries, his hobbies, going out, or even gas for his car. I asked him how $115 was enough to live off of for an entire month. I asked him how he could afford all of this and his truck, and if he planned to give up some things. He said no, he didn't plan to give up anything, and that he could make everything work in his budget. I asked him what if he had an emergency or needed gas for his truck, and he just kept saying he would work it out without explaining how. After I saw the first budget, I asked to see the documents for the car, and that's how I found out the truck price was $95K total after taxes, registration, and fees. He traded in his reliable 2003 Toyota and all his savings to get a loan at 14% for 72 months. His monthly payment is now $1,966, and insurance is $573. He also still has student loans, which are significant. I kept telling him $115 leftover monthly wasn't enough. That's when he showed me his second budget, which had a combined higher monthly income. I asked him if he was getting a second job, and he said due to his job relying on him to be on call, he couldn't. I asked where the income was coming from, and this man said, "Well, you're getting a raise soon." I froze because I had mentioned this raise once, months ago. My first job is my career job, and I work in a field where when you hit certain milestones, you get a pay bump. In September, if my raise is approved, I will go from $50K to $80K, and with my second job, my total yearly income will be $112K. But getting the raise isn't a guarantee. You have to meet certain criteria, and if you don't, you have to wait 3 months before trying again. When he said that, I was quiet. And then I said, "So you planned a budget that included additional income that I wouldn't get for at least 6 months, and income that I might not even get in September?" He said when I got my raise, the ratio of what he would pay would decrease and he would have more disposable income. I asked him why it was okay for him to plan budgets with my income, but yet I had no say in how he spent his. He couldn't answer that. I told him I had no issue with paying more bills if I got a raise, but the fact that he banked on that, didn't discuss it, and now expects me to be okay with this is ridiculous. I also said there's no way I wouldn't be paying more with the first budget because he wouldn't have been able to survive on $115. I told him he didn't communicate. And this is on him because he made huge financial plans without discussing anything. Finally, I told him I would never have done any of this without going to him first because I thought we were a team that was building something. I ended things the next day, and he has been trying to reach out, but I'm not interested. He has financially crippled himself with this truck. If with my income now, he could barely make it, he sure isn't making it on his own. I really hope that things work out for him and he is able to keep his truck and recover, but I'm not paying the consequences for such a massive financial mistake that is going to hugely affect him for years to come. If I were to stay, this financial decision affects me as well and would continue to affect both of us for years. Again, this is different from becoming ill or losing a job. He chose this and refuses to budge and fix it. I now realize we are not financially compatible, and that's okay, and I wish him the best. Author edited the story for the second time. Thanks everyone for all the support. I don't hate my ex, and I really hope he's able to recover from this. It was such a learning lesson for me in how one mistake can ruin you financially. It has made me even more cautious, but also determined to keep working towards a better financial future for myself. What I think about it? He wants to financially abuse you. He's taken on more debt than he can manage, assuming your money will pay for his decisions. It's abuse because he's restricting your autonomy about your finances by dictating that your money must be spent as he decides. That's why it feels so bad. You may not have recognized or described it as abuse, but you recognize the violation of your autonomy, financial stability, safety, privacy. Now his friends are harassing you and comfort. His punishing reaction to your refusal to accept abuse is emotional abuse. Let's listen to the user comments and what the author replied to them. All I have to ask is, how are you handling this with so much grace? I would be pissed if my ex, who I was so emotionally invested in, pulled this on me. It's not just that he made an irresponsible decision, it's the fact that he thought he could leech off you and your money to pay it, and somehow blindside you to get away with that. You don't badmouth him a single time and did the right thing, immediately break up, and have already accepted that you both are incompatible. I'm in awe of how decisive and yet non-aggressive you were. I wish I could be that way. To answer your question about why I'm not bad-mouthing him, it's because I'm sad. I'm sad about what he did to himself and that I had to leave because he isn't seeing how bad this is. I'm sad that just a few months ago, I was planning us living together and a life, and now that's gone. Most of all, I'm sad for him. He was doing so well and he rubbed off on me immensely in terms of paying off debt and watching your spending. I'm sad that he threw away all his hard work. Dumping on him even more isn't worth it, because when he realizes this mistake, it will be so bad for him. I don't see a point to do it, but I'm not judging anyone who would in these circumstances. The next story from user Scott's Tots, let's listen. For some context, I worked remote for a kind of large 3PL consulting company that merged with another company not too long ago, so things have been a shit show over the last year, to say the least. My role is kind of niche. I work almost directly with my clients, don't technically have a boss, thus have little oversight. Back at the end of January, I received an ominous Teams link on a Friday afternoon urging me to jump on. I already knew it was a layoff. Luckily, I've seen it coming for a few months, as the account I worked with was struggling financially, as were many of my other clients. I had done a final interview for a new job and had an offer on the table already, so no sweat off my back. After going through the whole song and dance on the call with about 50 other people, they announced that they would pay out 3 months severance paid out bi-weekly and allow us to finish the last few days of the month. Kind of a good deal for me, since I was already lined up for a new job, so I'm basically copping an extra few paychecks on top of getting a better job. So, I said goodbye to my colleagues and clients over the next few days, sent my laptop back, went on a little impromptu vacation for a big golf tournament, and started my new job a few weeks later. A few odd things happened during that time. I never technically received a separation letter, just all of the email instructions and acknowledgements. But the checks were clearing, so I didn't care. I kept getting calls and texts asking about my progress on XYZ project and things like that. Just assumed it was a mix-up. Fast forward to this morning. I get this kind of nasty gram call from an HR manager, and she starts with, "Hi, you're 2 weeks behind on XYZ required annual training. This is a mandatory item that must be completed on a yearly basis without exception, and you haven't responded to my multiple requests to complete. Why?" I respond, "Oh, I'm no longer with the firm. I was part of the layoffs. You must still have me on the compliance list." To which she replies, "No, you weren't? What do you mean? Did you leave the company?" After going back and forth trying to explain to her, she stops and says, "Oh," and says she will call me back. Turns out I wasn't laid off. What I guess happened is that someone else with the same last name, and their first name is the same as my middle name, which I go by a variation of, and they added me to the lists. Which I don't understand how that didn't get caught, especially since the other guy in a completely different department knew. Even more so, it blows my mind. It took them almost 2 months to realize I wasn't even working there. My clients didn't know any better, but it's almost laughable they managed to up that bad, haha. No idea what I'm supposed to do from here, haha. Author update this story. They owned up to the mistake, and no harm. Thank Jesus. but they want to bring me back to the firm like nothing ever happened. From what I could garner listening between the lines, they realized their biggest issue isn't what happened to me, but the fact the client is still being billed for an unmanaged aspect of the project, as they so eloquently put it. So I'm pretty sure their goal is to put me back on the account in a different place, as if I was there the whole time, and not let the client figure that out. Which I don't feel comfortable doing, because I'm sure I'll have to sign some NDA regardless for this. What I think about it? OP mentioned that the other guy knew what happened. So I suspect someone at some point figured out that he was the one that was supposed to be laid off, and told him they just forgot to tell OP that he wasn't supposed to be laid off. User Jeremy frankly commented this story. Didn't he say goodbye to the client though? Though I suppose such a thing needs to be reflected in the paperwork. Thank you all for watching this video to the end. Do not forget to write comments under this video. See you in the next part.